Yo, what's good? It's your boy Raysean from the Raysean Gadson Anime Podcast, or GAP for short. And on today's episode, we're interviewing special guest Gui Agustini, a professional voice actor who is known for X-Men 97, Grand Theft Auto. Join us as we dive into the world of voice acting, exploring his personal journey and achievements, uncovering his anime origin story, and discussing our favorite X-Men. We'll also be sharing tips for anyone out there trying to get into voice acting. If that sounds interesting to you, then sit back and enjoy the ride. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. Before we get started, I just want to allow my guests the opportunity to introduce themselves. Basically, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and also tell us your top 2 favorite X-Men and why.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gui Agustini. I'm an actor, voice actor, director also, and I voiced Sunspot in X-Men 97. My 2 favorite X-Men, number 1, Wolverine. That was my favorite X-Men growing up. And why I think it's, I don't know. I just think he was so cool with his, with his claws and very edgy. And then also my second one is Gambit. I was also a very big fan of Gambit. I think because, I've always liked fire, funny enough, it's always been like my inner element. And then cards, I think my parents and my family played cards so much, growing up. I also loved playing cards. So I don't know. I thought that was such a cool power that he had that I could relate to.
Okay, I think those are 2 pretty cool picks. I think Wolverine, I've always liked Wolverine. I pretty much just love the fact that he has one of the best healing factors in the world. And I feel like it allows you just to fight as reckless as you want. You can just literally run into any situation, killing everybody and then just taking bullets and not infecting you. I just think that's pretty
Right.
hardcore type shit. For Gambit, I've always liked Gambit, but the few times we have actually gotten to see him depicted on screen and stuff, I like to see his card tricks and everything. I kind of like that. It was pretty cool. I feel like we still haven't gotten a really good movie or anything with him. I think that's what we need. I feel like he needs his own movie because I think he could really sell it, man. That's one of the few X-Men that needs more light.
Or at least if the new version of the X-Men that'll eventually come out, hopefully he's included and
for sure.
It's really cool. So
yeah, because I mean they're bringing back a lot of stuff from Fantastic Four that's coming out soon. So and then that's pretty close to mutants. I'm thinking that X-Men should be coming pretty soon because they're starting to slowly introduce them into the universe, and eventually we're gonna have to figure out what these people are. For my favorite 2 X-Men, I chose. For my first one, I had to choose Magneto. I've always been a Magneto fan. I think he has one of those abilities where almost anywhere on Earth, he can literally destroy you. It's nowhere you can really go where there's no metal. And then when you look in the comics, he can even mess with the iron in your blood. So it's like, I don't know where this man can't be a killer. But I like the mindset that he's willing to do what needs to be done for the betterment of his race. And I like that sometimes you can't always go the whole, non-violent way. You know what I mean? Sometimes that progress takes slow and you're not seeing it. And sometimes you got to show people who you are. And I like sometimes saying that. And I like the fact that he's an Omega level mutant type thing.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
For my next one, I had to choose Deadpool. It's sort of kind of the same reason why people probably pick Wolverine. I think I picked Deadpool because I feel like Deadpool is my sort of Wolverine at this moment, where he literally does about the same things. He's a mercenary. He goes in there and kill everyone. But I just feel like they found the right person to play Deadpool, and he just plays Deadpool to a T.
I mean,
where you're
so
just
much humor, it's insane.
He just kills it, and then some of it is when you get to the point where it's like, is it Ryan Reynolds as Gambit? Is like as Deadpool, or is he playing Deadpool type of thing? Because it's hard for me to figure out if those 2 separate persons. If you meet him, I feel like he will have the same type of humor type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. It's really him. So
and he just pulls it off. That, and I have to say those are my two favorite X-Men.
Nice. Good picks. Good picks.
Before we jump into the questions and everything and figuring out who you are and everything, I just want to ask you, what have you been recently watching or playing, listening to, or
Well, I mean, you talk about playing because I play guitar and a couple of other instruments, but primarily guitar. And since getting, I was telling you earlier that I had this ordeal with my tooth in Brazil, and so after I got better, I was able to get back to doing my singing exercises and lessons. I started taking singing lessons a year and a half ago. So I've been
okay,
very consistent practicing and trying to get better. So in Brazil when I'm there, I have more time, vacation and all that. And so I usually get playing more. So that's for one, just like some of the songs um, that I, some Brazilian pop rock and some
okay,
Green Day. I love Green Day. And so I've actually been playing since I got back. In terms of seeing, well, last night I went to see Anora, which is phenomenal. I recommend everybody to watch. I've been trying to get all the Oscar nominated movies in preparation
okay,
for the Oscars next week. I thought it was phenomenal. There was a Q&A with Mikey Madison, who plays Honora, and she's brilliant and such a great movie. I've been to Cannes Film Festival with a short film of mine at the Film Corner a few years ago, and I got a sense for like Cannes Film Festival has such a unique taste of it's so like artistic, it's so out there. And for an American movie to not only be there, but to be this to have had the splash that it did, I was very interested into because I think she won the best actress at Cannes. I think they got something else or they were nominated or something. So I was very curious to see what kind of movie, because they're usually very edgy and very out there. And I was like, oh, okay, that's why, because so much sexuality, so much intense scenes. Anyway, I highly recommend. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I
okay.
watched a lot of the Oscar nominated movies. Conclave is amazing. My Brazilian, mind, but see, Brazilians we like think it's like all of it's part of of
Seeing
each
your
one of us
culture up
now.
there, I feel you.
Yeah, we have a movie that's nominated called I'm Still Here, and our beautiful, amazing actress Fernanda Torres won the Golden Globe and also nominated for Best Actress in the Oscars. So I'm really obviously we're all rooting for her for the movie. I think there's big chance it's an incredible movie. And so yeah, I also recommend people to watch that if you are able to find it in the theaters near you. I imagine that it's still out there because it's still run. The Oscars have not um, happened yet. And then in terms of, I've been trying to get since X-Men premiered last year. Getting into this world that I wasn't really big part of. I wanted to start watching more of the Disney TV shows, and so I've been trying to finish WandaVision. Have not done that yet, but that's something that's happening.
Okay,
Watched a little bit of What If, but then some of my friends were like giving me the list of like what I should be like watching in in sequence. So I'm gonna try to follow that. And what else? There's a couple other TV shows I watched during the break in Brazil, like some Brazilian TV shows.
hmm,
Um, and I do one of the two that I really want to watch by next week is Amelia Paris that I have not seen yet. There's a lot of controversy going around. A lot of people talking badly. A lot of my friends don't like it. There's so much going on, and a couple of my friends loved it. So I just really want to be able to watch and have my own opinion
point.
about it.
Okay,
And and then lastly, The Brutalist. I love Adrian Brody, and I really want to watch that by next week. Oh, another one that's not nominated, but I think he is for best supporting is A Real Pain with Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. He's phenomenal. Kieran is just unbelievable in that movie. I really loved it. Big inspiration.
that's funny you bring up Jesse Eisenberg because I was talking about him with another one of my friends the other day because I was naming off my top 10 actors and I put him in there and they
Oh
were like,
wow,
"What?" And I was like, Jesse Eisenberg to me is pretty good, and
wow,
I feel like from the Now You See Me, from The Social Network, he's
yeah,
to me is just hands down one of the best. Like I feel like he's done everything. I thought his Lex Luthor wasn't that bad. I know some people have mixed feelings on it,
hmm
and I'm not sure because I feel like we haven't really seen a Lex Luthor on screen. So that was just our first representation of it. I feel like if you're
right.
comparing them to like the cartoons and stuff, I mean, they literally didn't get a guy of similar shape because they were going for a different thing. You know what I mean? Because I mean, he does in the cartoon look more like Stone Cold Steve Austin, but they didn't go get a Stone Cold Steve Austin type of person. So you know what I
But
mean?
maybe that's why the critics, because as you know, a lot of
Yeah,
this world get pretty intense about being quite spot on with the comics and and all of that. But
being
yeah,
comic
I
accurate.
haven't seen him in that actually. I haven't seen that performance. There's a lot of his work that I actually have not seen, but I also saw not fully. But he did that Hulu show a couple of years ago. It's a mini series actually. It's 6 episodes. I have a friend who's in it, so I started watching. Didn't finish, but he's also incredible. With my God, I'm blanking on the name. Not Kate. Anyway, it'll come back to me. But yeah, no, he's incredible. He's so fun to watch.
Yeah, because I mean, even Zombieland. I don't know if you've seen
Oh,
Zombieland.
Zombieland. Yeah,
That was pretty good. I mean, like I feel like people didn't give him his props, man.
yeah.
But for things I've been oh, also you were talking about watching all the Oscar movies. That is a project I've been wanting to do for a while. I mean, I tried one year, I think it was the same year. It's the year what's her name from the Halloween movie? She won that.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Oh my God, she's been in everything now since she got back and really, oh my
And I
God.
can't believe it's not coming to my head right now because
Yes. I just spoke about her the other day. It's not Jennifer.
I gotta look it up real quick.
Is it Jennifer? No, not Jennifer, because I'm thinking about Jennifer Gardner and Jennifer Coolidge. No, it's
No, it's
my God.
oh,
It starts with J. I think it starts with J. I might be wrong. You check, because I'm
oh
using my phone, so I can't check.
yeah, I'm trying to pull it up. Jimmy Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee
Yes,
Curtis.
he's J. Jimmy Lee
Oh
Curtis.
man, I'm sorry that that took so hard for us to get, but yes,
Yeah.
that year she won, and because I had to look back and see the movie that she won for, and I had to be like, okay, it wasn't bad because I mean that year I thought I wanted someone else to win for Black Panther, and she didn't win. So I had to go see what movie won so I could be like, okay, you
Oh,
know.
she won for the everything all at once and
Hmm.
right everywhere, everything. Well, yeah, exactly. She was great in it.
Yeah, I had to go back and actually see what that movie was, and that movie was actually pretty good. Like I can see
It's
why that movie took home a lot of rewards that year.
yeah, it
I
was
know a lot of
interesting.
people were like surprised, and I was like, sometimes we got to go and actually watch some of these movies. So a lot of times you probably only seen two or three of the movies that's actually nominated, but there's like 12 in the thing. You know what I mean? So you got to give them all a shot and chance and see
Yes,
what's going on.
yes, 100%. No, I mean, I also try, every year, obviously, because primarily, my main passion and my number one goal is film. I mean, film and TV, but I'm an actor primarily,
Hmm.
like on camera, and so, and I like to make movies. I've directed a lot of my own short films and want to get into feature films and all that stuff, and so I love watching movies, but there's been so many years that just I don't know, I just don't have time or don't make the time and very seldomly, I think I have watched all the nominated ones. So this one, it seems to be a good potential because I was outside of the U.S. for a little longer. I was able to go. My mom loves movies, so we go and watch a lot. So yeah, and also these days, a lot of the movies are on Netflix or Netflix movies, or
Yep.
some sort of a streaming, so it's a little easier.
Especially when you want to find it and you're overseas, it's kind of quicker just to look on a streaming service and be able to play those.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're just chilling. That's when you got enough time to actually digest a lot of stuff. When you're on the moving around and stuff, you don't get enough
Yeah.
time. I feel you on that. That's
Right.
part a low key my problem. I'm always moving around. And I tend to stick to a lot more scary movies. I'm more of a horror movie
Okay.
fan. Uh,
Sure.
I don't
Uh,
it's hard for me to explain why, because I used to never be like this. When you asked me as a kid, I scary movies was not my thing.
Not your
I
thing.
think my first scary movie was Dead Silence. Uh, I think it was Mary Shaw was the ghost in that, and the first time I seen her, I was like scared of scary movies for like years, and that wasn't even that scary. Like then I go back and
Right.
watch it now, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah. Wow,
wow,
but
you know what I mean?
it's just like us, like being so scared with Chuck. Like it's just not scary, but
Man. And then some of the movies now, it depends, but I do kind of like how a lot of the horror movies and certain genres and directors are going, and they're actually making it pretty cool. So especially from like Keenan Peele, the fact that I mean he's able to go into the Michael Peele go into the
Michael
scary movie
Beale.
genre and actually make scary movies and do pretty good. I think that's amazing.
What have you watched lately, like the last couple of months or last year in terms of horror? Because I don't, I'm not, that's not my main genre. I watch very few. I mean, I like the thriller horrors, and a couple of years ago, I did a little streak of a few. But or when I go to film festivals, some of my friends work in that genre, and so. But what is it the top? I don't know, top three or top two you've watched recently?
Oh man, I've been watching a lot of rewatches of
Okay.
scary movies as of right now because I mean, every once in a while you get a new scary movie. There's one I just saw recently, and I just can't think of the name of it, but I'm gonna kind of describe it if I can. Man, but it was literally about this TV show host. He was back in the day. He was like a TV show host, and he has
Mhm.
this ability to come out of the TV and like kidnap kids and stuff, and like kill their parents and stuff like that.
Oh,
It's such an interesting premise to a movie when you actually get to the end and then figure out like he's like the big bad guy, and which I mean he's the bad guy throughout the whole movie because I mean the way he's killing
right.
these people, but the fact that in the beginning it seems like he's on the children's side because how he comes out, it seems like it's always a situation with the kids and the parents. Like he comes and try to seem like a savior, like he's coming and saving the kid, but he's actually taking these kids to a whole nother like hell, and
Right.
it's kind of crazy, man. Um, but when
Gotcha.
I say rewatches, I'm talking about going back to like your Halloweens and rewatching that whole series. I just got done going back watching Scream. That was pretty
Oh,
good.
yeah. Yeah, I loved Scream. I stopped watching after after the third or fourth, and then when some of the last ones came out, I really wanted to go. I ended up not going.
Well, you
Now,
probably should because I think they're actually about to start recasting because a lot of them jumped out of the Scream franchise. Which, yeah, I wish some of them stay, but I can understand. I don't know if
right.
Scream is something you do forever. Unless it's like bankrolling off of it, because I mean Courtney Cox has been in all of them. Like you know what I mean? That's whew.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna tape this weekend an audition for a very cool horror film. So,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
fingers crossed. That starts shooting very soon, so we'll see.
For sure, for
Um,
sure. I hope it works out for you,
Yeah,
man.
thank you. I got that one, that kind, like I would love to. I actually did a small part in well, I don't know, that's not horror, but I guess it's more thriller. I don't know, like comedic thriller. But the new Anaconda movie that's gonna come out with Black Jack, and
Yeah.
so there's the guy who plays the husband in the Brazilian movie I'm Still Here that's nominated for an Oscar. He got the role. I mean, some of us here Brazilians, got to audition for. There's a Brazilian character in that movie, so I got to audition. Some of my friends did too. But this guy who's like super famous in Brazil and great actor, obviously, but he got the part, and so they're shooting. That he's been posting, but I remember Anaconda for me, in my teen years, it was scary. It was a thriller
Yeah.
scary movie. But yeah, I mean, the last ones that I can remember, not in order, but I remember I liked a lot because it was very especially the first 45 or first hour. I thought it was very um inventive, like very different, was Barbarian. The Barbarian or Barbarian? It's
Yeah, I know
that.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that. Um, and then there was uh, uh, Nope, I did not like at all. Oh my God, I remember when I watched it, I was like, I thought it was so bad. I don't know if those are considered horror per se, but isn't it? I guess it's in the genre of horrors. But
I know. Nope. Is that the one with the alien thing? Yeah.
yeah, it's the Jordan Peele is the third movie of Jordan Peele after the other
Yeah.
two. Did not like it. And then there was I don't know, there was a couple of series. I can't recall, but they're not really horror. They're just more thriller with suspense and But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pretty. Yeah, I feel you on that. For other stuff I've been watching, anime wise, I've been watching.
anime.
I watch a lot of anime. That's my other thing.
Aha, tell me.
I've been watching a lot of Dragon Ball. That's recently just come out.
Oh,
Oh, it's been
really?
pretty good. Yes, this is the probably about the fifth or sixth iteration of different series of Dragon Ball, but they basically bringing them back as kids, having them go into the demon world and kind of fighting in the demon world type of thing. And it's been
Okay.
pretty cool. It's kind of like a whole anniversary they're doing, especially because the creator died just recently, which
Oh,
is
wow.
sad because it's
Sad,
always
yeah.
been a series that I've always wanted to kind of get into. Because after doing a lot of these voice acting like interviews and stuff and talking to people, it's made me realize, maybe it's not such a hard field or something I can try to step into myself. So I've always
Yeah.
kind of was like, if I could step into it, like what animes or cartoons would I want to get into? And that's always been one of my top ones. So it's like, oh, hopefully it's still a chance. Hopefully that's type of thing.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, they'll continue, because those like the ball keeps rolling. It's unfortunate, obviously sad, but yeah, it keeps going. If there's a lot, there's a big audience for that. So when that is the case, oof, you can go forever. We know.
Then also, just kind of anniversary of having you on, and also I had on Isaac for last week. I've
Nice.
I just recently watched, finished up X-Men 97. Great series, amazing. I like the
Very
fact that
cool.
y'all were able to kind of pick up back from the old feeling of the show and still kind of keep that feeling. Thought that was
Yeah.
pretty good. One thing I like about this show is the reason why I've always liked Magneto is just how good Magneto just comes off. I like how in the beginning, he gives this feels like he's all for the X-Men, and then he has that moment where takes the council people up into space, and he's trying to fight for his people, and that's always just how
Right.
I like Magneto. Because sometimes I feel like sometimes you see things from different perspectives, like Xavier, and you feel like he caves too much under the pressure of trying to be united front, and it actually hurts his own people in that same route because it's like
Right.
even though you're trying to be peaceful, they still don't trust you. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
still an outsider,
One hundred
and,
percent. One
and it's
hundred
just kind
percent.
of crazy. I feel like it also with the premise of the show kind of figures what's going on with today's society where you have a lot of stuff that's happening in the government and you got a lot of people fighting trying to figure out which side they want to be on and now you got a whole nother side that's kind of being
Yeah.
discriminative and it's kind of crazy.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of division. I mean, we've been facing that for quite a while. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and it's just crazy how sometimes a lot of these shows, cartoons, and animes can emulate life, and then
Yeah.
how they show you like, oh, we try to learn from the past, but then you'd be like, it seems like it keeps happening in the future. So
Keeps
I
happening. It
I
does.
don't
It
know
does.
what we're learning. You know what I mean?
History
But
keeps repeating itself. It's true. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think we do learn, but for sure, there are so many things that in a different way, right? It's a repetition. But I couldn't agree more. It's like art reflects life, right? Imitates life. We like to say that a lot in acting. I think it's just art in general. There's a lot of inventive things, but also it's so wild. Like so many, like especially sci-fi, which is also not my like a genre that anymore. I think I used to be much more into as a kid. But it's so wild that a lot of movies and all that like imagination, like a lot of this stuff, it's kind of happening and it's like
Yeah.
not far fetched anymore. So it's pretty wild.
One thing I want to say before we jump into our questions is, oh, I just thought about it, is you had to go from Brazil back to here. Was that plane, getting on that plane scary with all these plane stuff happening? I mean,
All right, but I think no, it happened. Uh, the one in Washington, was I back already? I think I know. I think I was still in Brazil because my friend was. I don't remember, or maybe I was already in the U.S.,
hmm
but I was in Florida, and then I was gonna get a plane to come here, and then the one Delta, the Delta one, I just found out this past weekend, right when it happened. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, and I travel a lot by plane. A lot of us do, but yeah, it's pretty wild. So
yeah, it's
sad,
like,
very sad.
man. And I know for a profession, and I don't know if that's making you like, maybe I need to take the car or something because this is, ooh,
Well, I mean, I haven't, not really. I don't know how true that still is, but I remember before the pandemic, I actually can't recall who said that exactly, but apparently, in terms of probabilities and percentage, planes are like the safest of
yeah,
all transportation. So, but of course, there's way less when you compare and the amount of people and the amount of flights, I guess, yearly with the amount of cars and amount of people driving, right? So of course you're gonna have a higher percentage. So I don't know. I try not to think too much about it because
yeah. I don't want to
I
scare
don't.
you too much or say too much. You know
Yeah, I
what I
don't want to.
mean?
I don't want to feed the the seeds of fear. I just in life in general. I'm like, look, it's scary to just get out of your house, right? You could step and fall, or something can
Yeah.
fall in your head. Like it's just crazy like that. Things crazy like that actually happen. So if it's time to go, it's time to go.
And sometimes you got to think that positivity. Sometimes you put that negative stuff in there, and that just bring in that negative energy. You know what I mean? So I feel you
Exactly.
on that. Because
Exactly.
positively, if I have to get on a flight, I ain't thinking about none of nothing else. I mean,
No,
if I hear
I'm
anybody bring
like,
up some, I'm now you done messed up my plane ride. Why you got to bring that up? You know what I
no,
mean?
no, no. It's so good. I'm good with that. It's so good. I don't let it like get to me. I mean, so at time, even there's also a thing that helped me a lot. And again, I don't know how true that is, but my the father of my ex drives plane, and my ex's brother-in-law is a flight it's a pilot for JetBlue, so commercial, and and
Okay.
and, and her father, flies like small planes and stuff like that. But anyway, they're into that, like that world. And I remember her father said that people are so scared of turbulence and stuff, but he said that I'm not, and I think it was coming from also from the brother-in-law who works for JetBlue and piloted for like commercial planes. Like there's never a plane that fell because of turbulence. That's never happened. So that kind of like just
Okay.
ease, you know what I'm saying?
Take
Like
some of that
there's so
pressure off. Okay.
it's yeah, it's other reasons shit can happen, of course, but not because of a turbulence. So
Okay. So the wind's not doing it. It's something else internally that took this plane down. I see what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah. So when it happens, of course, sometimes like it's been a while since I got like something quite like that feels like you're in like Disneyland or Disney World. Going to like the elevator thing that your
Oh,
stomach goes up. It's been a while, but I've had a couple of those experiences.
no, I haven't had to face turbulence, and I pray to God I haven't. I had faced some crazy landings though, but
Oh,
other than that,
that's more scary now because it's been happening quite. I'm now a little bit more like I didn't even never crossed my mind, and now we're getting to landing, and I'm like, what the hell? And then I was like, nah, but there's no, nothing can really happen. And now the fucking plane went upside down. I mean, I still like I stopped, like I forgot about it until now, but I was curious at the moment. I couldn't find videos of like
it
seeing
flipping
it
like
actually happen. How the hell did I cannot like
fan
see
of
it in
how
my
that.
head.
Whew, that's one hell of a fucking flip. You know what I mean? Just imagine that. Like, oh my god. But man, everything's just been happening kind of crazy. But I hear that it's just been kind of magnetized right now. That is like usually about the same amount of accidents that happen. But we're not gonna keep this talking about airplanes. We're gonna kind of go ahead and jump into
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the interview. But my
Good.
first question I want to ask you is what made you want to pursue a career in acting, and what made you focus right now on voice acting?
Well, I was living in Venezuela. I was a tennis player. I wanted to play professional tennis. And I started modeling, and modeling took me to auditioning for commercials because I was doing print work. And then I was terrible acting. I had to act for the first time in my life. So I asked my agent to recommend me to an acting class or an acting coach, and she did, and that's how I started. And I fell in love with it, and started reading my first Shakespeare plays, and that was like just a few months before moving to the U.S. I had a scholarship to go to South Carolina, a small town called Greenwood, to attend Lander University. And when I got there, they had a theater program, which is non-existent anymore, which I went back last year for the first time since 2010. So it was
Oh,
15 years ago, and I spoke to the students. It was amazing. And I'm actually going back this next month for they have a film festival now, and I'm going to be doing a talk with the students again, and being part of
that's
the
dope.
jury for the film festival. Yes, it's really amazing. I'm very happy. But yeah, so that's like I didn't know what to do. I was coming to the US obviously with a scholarship, and I was just gonna, study business until I figured out what I really wanted to do. And that bug, bit me, and I had some people in Venezuela that really encouraged me. And so I started taking, classes at the school and did my first play, got nominated for this award, and my very first play ever being on stage. And so, just like one thing led to the other. I moved to Miami for the summer. I speak fluently Spanish as well as Portuguese. And so I wanted to go to spend only the summer. And then I realized this is what I want to do with my life. I quit tennis and focused 100% in studying acting, went to so many different schools in Miami, but that's where most of my my first big trainings happened for 3 years. And I started working in some soap operas, did a lot of commercials, worked for Nickelodeon, did my first TV co-star for The Glades on E&E back in 2011 or something like that. And then after that, I moved to New York to attend an acting conservatory for 2 years. That was, very intense, very focused. And yeah, and so since then, I never looked back. Now, voice acting, when I moved out of Miami, the agent I had at the time had worked for this big agency who is CESD, who I'm a rep for in the voiceover world, who was the ones who got me the audition for X-Men 97. And she recommended, because I spoke different languages, that I created a voiceover reel, because after I graduated, because during the conservatory, during school, you weren't allowed to audition and all that. And so
Mm,
my agent Alyssa at the time said, like, just complete the conservatory. After you're out, let me know, and I'll see if I can get you a meeting with the agent I worked for at CESD. And she did. And so I had all my commercials that I had done in Miami, and she was an agent for the commercial department. But they asked about my voiceover, and so I had that, ready to go. And they started working with me and representing me, and that's how it started. And I mostly auditioned for commercials while I was in New York. I was there for 8 years after graduating, probably like 6, 7. Um, and it wasn't until I moved to LA, and they also, they have an office here in LA and New York. And so I got switched to the department here in LA. And that's when I really started auditioning for animation. I think the department here in LA is way more focused on animation than the New York department. So yeah, that's how it came about. And without even knowing like much about it at all, during the pandemic in 2020, because I moved to LA for a few months in 2020, I took this animation class because my friend, I met these ladies who work with voiceover and dubbing and all that through a
mhm.
good friend of mine. and they had these like online courses and classes, and so I had never done one, so I decided to do it, and that was the only class I ever took for animation, specifically, and it was super fun. And then after a couple months, I started auditioning because I finally got into the roster of CSDLA, and yeah, and then I auditioned a ton until this came about, and it came and it happened, and it went my way.
Oh, okay. That's pretty dope. I'm glad that worked out for you. And I'm
Yeah,
glad
thank you.
that you taking all the opportunities in voice acting because I know a lot of times some people stay focused on one specific field. And I'm like, voice acting is so big and so broad. I mean, if you think about it, it's in almost
Sure.
everything. You can do it
Yeah,
in commercials. I mean, it's in signs. I mean,
yeah,
we
yeah.
think that voice that comes out, that's someone, you know what I mean? So that's the interesting about it. I think what's also pretty cool is the fact that you spent most of the time would you consider being a professional tennis player? That was your job for a point in time?
I mean, not really because I didn't earn money. I didn't, that wasn't
Oh, okay,
my
okay.
my life. I wanted to be. I played some professional tournaments, but I was never good enough to actually compete in the on the tour per se, of professionals. And that's why I just, stopped pursuing and got a scholarship and just came to studies. But I dedicated a lot of my all of my teen years, and I started playing when I was 5, but I only really got really serious in the beginning of my teen years, so a little bit late in the game. And but yeah, it was a wonderful journey. I mean, I still, I get to teach now as until when I'm out of a specific job or work or something that I'm doing, I teach. So it's
So
it's
you
it's
teach
pretty
you
rewarding.
coach tennis basically?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So do you also coach and do voice like acting classes or anything like that or
No, in terms of teaching, only tennis. Yeah.
oh, all right, for my next question I want to ask you is what do you find most rewarding and least rewarding about being an actor?
Hmm. I'd say most rewarding. Well, I think two parts. I think personally is like as actors, we get to learn so much about not only other people's lives and other experiences, but also about other professions, right? And
Mhm.
I find that to be fascinating. I think I'm a very curious person, and it wasn't until I was in my conservatory that I really changed. We have in Brazil we have the same saying that here in the U.S. that curiosity killed the cat, and it's such a negative thing that people think about being curious, but it really I turned that around through a teacher, and I think a lot of actors, a lot of people or artists. There's actually something I shared recently on Instagram. I forgot who was saying it, but the curiosity is key. Is number one to being an artist. So you have to get curious about this human being, get curious about this profession or this situation, um, and I love that. I think it's very interesting and fulfilling. It is rewarding, and also the experience when you get to do a scene, do a play, do a movie as an actor. But I'm also a filmmaker, so for me, it's also like the process of creating something out of nothing, and then you get ideas on a paper, or you have a friend that put it on a paper, and you work on that, and then from the paper you create, and then all of a sudden you have something finished. It's just like so amazing. And the least rewarding, oh, plus like the people you get to meet. I have to say, I mean, my
True.
best friends, so most of my best friends now like have come from these experiences, and then me being an actor, and so many wonderful human beings and just experiences as a person. And the least rewarding, um, wow, there's so many that people talk about, but for me, like the rejections and stuff like that, I don't see it that way. But I think for me lately, it is like um, it can get frustrating for the amount of time of effort that we need to put in and not be compensated, right? And not knowing. It's like the unknown. I think that's what it is because I'm a Virgo and I am such a control freak, control monster. And maybe the reason why I was fascinated about acting, like subconsciously, or it felt like a calling, was to like get me away from this tendency that I have to want to control things. And there's positives about it in terms of being a habitual human. I'm very good at being habitual and creating habits and keeping them and being consistent. But as actors, we really have to like learn to let go so much, in the scene. After you do a scene, you don't know what the director is going to do, or the editor, how it's going to come out. Like, there's so many things that are like out of our control. But that's it's the unknown, and it's quite scary, and when you stay in that lane, in that limbo, let's call it that way, it can be it can create anxiety, and it can be quite frustrating.
No, I can understand that, especially being in a field where nothing is certain. It's kind of like, dang, you might be up for a little bit right now when you're
Yeah,
getting jobs, but then after a second, you're like, oh man, I can't get no
yeah,
jobs. And now you got to be able to keep that mentality to like, the, it's going to through these clouds, the sun is going to shine again, type of
yeah,
thing. Because
and
without
100%.
that mentality, it's not going to work. But
It's
I
not
do
gonna
like
work.
the fact that you said that you got a lot of friends in this field because I feel like that's one thing I've learned from doing these voice actors interviews is that you guys tend to have these communities where you guys kind of build within each other and have like this good support and keeping each other like okay. Because I know a lot of people I bring in I always talk about some of the people that came in when they came and
Yeah,
how they're helping each other out and how that works out. So I always think that's pretty cool because for a lot of different fields, you don't really hear that. You know what I mean? You don't hear that there's a community within the community trying to keep each other together. Because I
that's right.
mean, voice acting is a hard field to get into because it's sometimes if you don't know the right people, but that's almost in every field. It can be hard. You
Correct.
know what I mean?
Correct. But I think for voice acting is even more difficult in that sense because, especially now, I mean, since the pandemic, you don't have to go meet anybody. Like, you do
Yep.
everything out of your house, and it's a more secluded uh type of acting, right? Like writers, like, so you have to
Hmm.
force yourself. It's different with acting. Like, you either, when you're cast on something, you're gonna meet people, play, film, and you might bond, and you might create good relationships like that, in those environments. Or you go to a class and you go, well, also these days a lot of the classes are virtual, but before, specifically, you would
Yep.
go attend a school, conservatory, and classes, and you meet people, and then you vibe, and then you create that relationship as well. So
And also not as a also as like a negative, but also a positive, it gives more competition. Now instead of probably just the people that's in the room competing for a role, now you got people that's from a different country that's competing for that role. So it's
oh,
like
100%.
it may it
Competition is stiff now, 100%.
I know that it has to be hard. I imagine for a casting director, it's probably really hard nowadays because you try to be open to trying to want to cast more people, but then you're
Yeah,
like, man, I got to listen to how many people want to audition for this one role. It's like, oh,
you're right. You're right. You're
man.
right.
So it's like
It's
I can
tough.
feel that. But
You
before I get into my next question, it's something you brought up. You brought up directing. I kind of wanted to ask you, what kind of got you into that, and can you tell me the process of what's your process of being a director?
So what got me into it is that right before I left Miami to attend this conservatory in New York, I was quite frustrated with the projects I did, like student films, or just a lot of like non-paid stuff, that I didn't get footage, or I thought it was really subpar in terms of quality. Like, I thought it was bad. And I was, going to like film festivals and seeing some stuff. And, obviously I'm not talking about like the major movies going out, but I'm like short films specifically. And very young, I guess, arrogant self, part of me was like, well, if I'm gonna, uh, I think I need to do. There's a lot of talks too in the community that I was a part of. Start creating your own work, right? That's like to 2010, 2011, like the starting to get a little bit of the boom of
Hmm.
not really the boom, but like, Netflix. I can't remember which year it came out, but like social media, stuff like that. But so create your own work. Um, and I was like, well, I just gotta, do something that's mine, because number one, it could be bad, but it's going to be mine and it's going to be finished. And so I just wanted to be finished and wanted to look good so I could have footage, because as actors we need to get footage to like create a reel and put it on the websites and that kind of stuff. And so um, that's really how I started. And so I wrote something with my ex. Um, I actually played a young tennis player, and at the time, there's a famous quote from Mark Twain: "Write what you know." And so
I feel it.
that really stuck with me, and I'm like, well, let's go. I'm gonna combine the strengths of that I have and my ex has, and resources. We had a lot of resources available to us. It was like very, very cheap to make, because we didn't have to spend a lot of money. And that's how I started. And I loved the process. I knew nothing about directing. Some scenes I had such a specific idea of what I wanted. I'm very visual. I really learned that I'm very visual, and that's why I think I like directing a lot. And then also when I got into the editing, that you piece stuff together, and I think I excel in that department as well. I mean, I learned through the years to edit. I mean, I'm not an editor, but um, I understand it quite well. And because I'm so focused on details, maybe too much, but it fulfilled that part of me that I was telling you about creating, and I think there's a lot of positives in that way to get to the best version of that product that I possibly can. And then after that, I when I moved to the conservatory, I also had my last year we had film history, and we were asked to create short films about the either director we're studying or the era that we're studying, right? So film noir and Japanese and like all these influences. Um, and then I learned a lot from a good friend of mine. It was my best friend, one of my best friends during that conservatory. Had a lot of experience with camera and directing and filming, and so I learned a ton. And and that just got me excited. And after I graduated, I continued to create short films or little scenes, mostly so I could create footage for myself. Because if nobody's going to cast me, I better cast myself. And by doing it, you learn, and you like, and I liked the having my vision and my idea. And again, it's going to be finished. It's going to be the best that it possibly can under the circumstances that I have. And it fulfills that the desire to to create something from scratch, and also to have that control. And then what was the other part of the question?
Oh, it was basically stating your process, but I feel like you kind of
Oh,
explained that a little bit.
yeah.
But
I mean, it depends. It depends. But like I also I started to focus on learning as much as I could about every single. I learned how to work sound and boom a scene. I mean, I have, a boom. Actually, that's what I used to record, actually, is because it's my film equipment from, doing things on my own. I have a camera that I, used to do a lot of my stuff back in the day. So the process
okay.
is different for each project. And it was like, um, it was like climbing the ladder a little bit. And so now, like since the pandemic specifically, I was very lucky to work with incredible filmmakers, and always trying to like get that higher standard and quality. And so the last one I did last year here in California, that's going to hopefully be finished in a month and a half from now. We're going to the final processes of post production with sound mixing and color correction. That was, I think, the best like team that I had, like incredible people, and I think it's one of my best work, if not the best work in all of the
Hmm.
areas, really. So I'm really proud. I'm really happy. I can't wait to get to submit to the film festivals and get into the circuit. Um, but yeah, the process, I mean, it's just like finding, the best people that I have available. It depends how much money you have. This past project and another one that I did in New York based on a true story were the only two that I didn't have to put any of my money. It was funded by the creators or the author of the story. And those were the two, I mean, best shorts, I think, because of the quality, the amount of money that I had, you know. But
Okay. So how did
but
you get
yeah,
picked to direct those?
relationships, you know,
Okay.
just yeah, it's just and from different walks of life. And
That's pretty
that's
cool.
what yeah, that's why like when you were saying, you know, getting to meet people, you're talking a lot about networking. I mean, for me it's always been organic, but you know, one way or another we have to be meeting people. You have to like be finding your tribe or whatever, and then things happen. Otherwise, if you're just too secluded, I think it's gets a little it gets harder. That's for sure.
That's for sure. That's one thing I hear a lot of voice actors talk about is networking and being able to show your best self to people and always treating people how you want to be treated because that's important because you never know the person you might be talking to and not showing the right respect to might be somebody that might have to try to cash you later on.
Yes.
And now
Yes.
they remember how you treated them and now they like,
100.
what?
Yes.
You don't even get an opportunity to be listened to. So
True.
that's why it's always you always gotta always treat people the way you wanna be treated, even in situations where you feel like you're not being treated the right way. Know
Yes.
what
I
I mean?
agree. 100%.
Well, my next question I wanna ask you, one of the main reasons I brought you on is because I wanted you to kinda dive into your experience working on X-Men '97. What was it like stepping into the shoes of Sunspot? Did you find any personal connections to this character, and did you have any key insights did you gain from this experience?
Uh, well, yes, yes.
I
Well,
know
number
that's a
one,
lot.
you know, yeah, but number one, like getting to be a part of this was definitely surreal, and it's been a wonderful experience. It's really like as cliche as it is, there's just not enough words to describe. It's you know something I could have never even imagined. Um, and the experience doing it, recording it, it was yeah, it was new to me because I had not done something at this scale in terms of animation. Um, but it also felt very easy after a little bit when you get used to that booth and the team being so supportive, uh, so opened. It was really fun. But in the beginning, I was very nervous. You know, like anything, you do it for the first time, or you know, even if I get it to any set right now, but I'll be very prepared. That's the only thing that I can control. But the nervousness, I mean, I guess it's different than like 10 years ago, but it still is there. Like the anxiety, I just try my best to turn it into a positive thing. But yeah, I was very nervous. And then as you do it a few times and okay, you get more confident and then you kind of like just enjoy it more than anything. But I you know, there's a lot of things that during recording it you know, the after watching it and the experience that I had, the communal experience watching it here in Los Angeles with a lot of people and the reaction of the fans, I think that was to me the most rewarding part of it all. And then you know, because we don't get the whole script sometimes. We don't get all the scripts of all the episodes. And we recorded over like a period of 3 years. I mean, I like 2.5, some people 3 years. And it's kind of sporadic. So it's just like I wasn't going back to the script to remember, and so I
Mhm.
forgot about a lot of things. So it was very interesting watching it for the first time, seeing things that like, oh, I don't even remember recording this, or I remember this, but they changed. There's some things that changed here, and so it was really awesome. And again, that the expression of the fans, and then like how like all of a sudden I'm like seeing the whole thing put together, and then I'm having this experience that is affecting me and in a much deeper level. You know, but in terms of the like the the how it could relate to Roberto and Sunspot. Um, I think like the main thing first that I clinged on to like feel like you know that is me. That is you know I always try to come from me. I think most of us actors you know we try to come from self first, from the inner. Um, obviously everything counts. I mean, in this case, we're only gonna like be using our voice, but uh, we try to pull as many personal things as we can, but also just a lot of imagination. And and the fact that he spoke different languages, that to me was a big in. I mean, I didn't know at the time that his mother in the show was going to be Brazilian, but in
Mhm.
the comics, she's American and his father is Brazilian. So though my mother is not none of my parents are American or Brazilian, but I have a big mix, and Sunspot speaks three languages as well, actually four, and I speak like three and a half because I speak some French, like just details like that. And then in terms of the story, uh, though, I didn't have a any big reveal like that, but the moment that people talk a lot about in it's episode 5 with when he comes up to the mother with Jubilee, to tell her that he's a mutant. um what I remember using a lot, it was like a couple of moments in my life that I had something so substantial and so important and so difficult to share to my mom, to tell my mom, who very differently from the show is one of the most loving humans I know. And she's so supportive, and she's so um uh she yeah
Yeah,
she's
those
such
be
a
the hardest people to let down. I know.
yeah. And she's been just always so wonderful to me. And so I could not relate to any of that, but that feeling of like nervousness, anxiety, and fear to just speak, to just share. That was to me very, very real and very relatable. Um, and then, there's like little details that I always like to talk when people ask me that's more fun, but when I got the script, one of this part of the description was, yeah, raver boy, single. And I was like, that's me, especially 2021 when I'm like, after the pandemic, I started partying more than I had ever had. And I was single, I was married for 8 years. So just stuff like that. I was like, whoa, boom, let's go.
I feel you on
Um,
that.
yeah. Now I I didn't grow up with that kind of financial situation, or being spoiled like that, or having that much arrogance, or but yeah, that's when like it's a mixture of the things that we can really relate, that feel like very close to ourselves, and then the other things that are very far away from us, and that's the beauty of it.
Okay. How familiar with Sunspot was you before you got into the role?
Yeah, unfortunately not that familiar at all.
Okay.
Um,
So how did
and
you get
I
prepared
will,
for the role? Did you
yeah.
go to a comic book store?
No, so when I got the role, I was sent a link from the Marvel link of the database, and that was my main source of research. I went directly to that source, and I read everything that was there. But then I went on YouTube and I watched everything I could find on Sunspot, which was not a lot before X-Men 97, to be honest. Went to Twitter. I just went on on the internet, and I did a lot of that, and I was sent a lot of the New Mutants copies from production,
Mm.
and so those were my my research, really. And then like I always like to say, the script, because that's our king and queen. We have to focus on what's on that page, and the story that they're going to tell, and trust their vision. And as I learned, there was so many reiterations or versions of Roberto of Sunspot, and it was created by Chris Claremont in 1982, who I got to meet actually. And I got a friend of mine gifted me the first appearance of Sunspot and a Marvel graphic number 4 of the New Mutants, and I got it signed by Chris Claremont, which was pretty
Okay.
amazing.
Oh,
Yeah, but yeah, so that's how like my research, and my understanding and knowledge of Sunspot came about. I had not even seen like New Mutants in 2020 when it came out, the movie, but I watched the scenes on YouTube and everything.
Okay. Okay. For my next question, I want to ask you: is there one voice acting or entertainment myth that you would like to debunk right now?
Entertainment myth.
Like a yeah, something that people believe they think is easy. So what's something that you think you
Oh,
hear a lot of people say that you like that's not true?
oh, wow. That's a very interesting question. I was never asked that.
This is about acting as a whole or entertainment or voice acting.
I mean, to be very honest, I don't think I hear a lot like this is easy. So, because definitely is not. I think nothing in life, I mean, eh, yeah. I like to say life is simple and things in life that are simple, but they're just not easy. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, it's a lot of passion. Um, but a myth. You got me on that. I can't think about something that's been like a common denominator from like people outside the business specifically, because people who are actors who are in the industry, I think they get it, right? I mean,
Hmm.
uh, I
So it
think
mainly be people.
I'll say this, at least for listeners or people who are in the business one way or another. And I mentioned this a little earlier. People talk a lot about rejection, and there's been several mentors or people that I heard through my journey that I attach myself to in terms of the definition and the way of the perception of rejection. And I just don't like to see it as rejection because, um, well, actually, Alicia Oxy says it's selection, not rejection. And I love that saying because when you have, like, if you get an audition with 100 people, one people gets the job, 99 don't get it. If 99 got the job and one didn't, that would be rejection. So I like to
Yeah,
think of
I
that
feel
way.
that.
Right. So I don't feel rejected. It obviously just sucks when you're really close. Sometimes we know that we're close if we're up for something and you get put on hold or pin or whatever where you get to like that final call, final audition. So you're really close and it doesn't go your way. You're obviously bummed, especially for big opportunities. But it's just part of the business. But yeah, I don't know. I can't think of a myth per se. Do you have something in mind, like, or that you have heard, or that I can, ping back, ping back?
Oh, the only few I've heard is mainly voice acting is easy. It's just impressions, you know what I mean? So
Okay,
that's them the main ones I've heard. But
there you go.
I feel like what you said makes sense too. Understanding like rejection doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times, especially with today's society, with a lot of how people mental states are, they get a few rejections and they're just ready to give up. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I feel like we need to get back to that mindset that what you were just saying, just because you weren't selected for this particular project, maybe this wasn't right for you. And then the next project is going to be more right for you. So sometimes I
Right.
think people just got to take that time and just look at it as an opportunity that's not missed, but, opportunity gained.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. It's because I think the main thing is the mindset that we have as human beings. As you're talking about mental health, it's just that if one sees it as rejection in this business in life, it's just so negative. It's just so bad, right? It's just
Mhm.
like, think like I have a friend who just like had a personal, or was telling me about a personal situation that she felt rejected, and that like was like a rejection, like somebody that or like, and you were like left out, I guess what it is, but in a way it's a rejection of you being part of something and everybody else was. That
Yeah.
sucks, right? Just so bad. It's so negative. So when people take that on, um, I always say it's all about choice, and we have free will, and we have uh, the ability to pick how we want to perceive things. So it's all about that mindset, and I hope people don't choose that negative the negative option of rejection that's gonna make you feel so down, and so yeah.
We're winding down to our last three questions. Well, my next question I want to ask you: if you could celebrate with any other actor, dead or alive, who would it be, and what kind of project would you want to create with them?
So you said celebrate and create a project?
No, you can
Colla- oh,
collaborate,
collaborate.
collaborate.
Collaborate. Oh, you said celebrate. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I messed that word up 5 times. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So I immediately thought of my favorite actors. But when you talk about collaborate and create a project with, that feels like um more like it's so interesting because yesterday listening to Mickey Madison who plays Honora, and she was sharing that movie. It was written and directed by Sean Baker, and I have not seen a lot of his Florida Project and Tangerine, incredible like indie movies. And they had this beautiful collaboration. The script was not even written. Like he came up to her, I think, saw her. I forget the project, and then just wanted to work with her. So you just imagine, like, I mean, I was like, whoa, I really would love to do something like that. And so, India, it's I don't know. I look, I really thought about my favorite actor because that's the question, and I think it'd be amazing just because of like the energy, the respect that I have, and so going really like far out there, I would choose Will Smith, just to get to know
Okay,
him and get to collaborate with the man, and that energy, and somebody I've looked up to so much, and um I'm big
what's your favorite Will
big
Smith
fan.
movie?
Wow. I think The Pursuit of Happiness. I think that's gonna be a winner. I mean, there's so many, but
That's
uh,
an amazing pick. I'm surprised you picked that. To be honest with you.
yeah, I don't know. It's just like if you, I'm sure the answer would be different at every different stage of my life. I think right now those kinds of movies are what I'm like so much about. Obviously these action stuff is Bad Boys and Independence Day and all this stuff is super fun. Uh, yeah, but I think that would be my pick.
Yeah, Pursuit of Happiness is a whole different type of movie that you really
Yeah,
don't get to see Will Smith in. And the
right.
fact that you also get to see a son in the movie, and the movie's about like him being poor and then trying to get this job and just to
Yeah,
kind of get everything to turn around for himself, but also having that belief that things can change. You know what I mean? That's the most important thing because a lot of times you get so stuck in the mundane and what your life has shown you that you forget that things can be better. You know what I mean? It just take the
and he
will and the drive.
he's all about that. I mean, that's his like ethos, and like because I remember like at one point I was watching everything I could find on YouTube interviews. In fact, I learned about this famous Brazilian author's book with a lot of shame, I could say that, or embarrassment, better, that I didn't know about Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, and so. And it's one of my favorite books, but just like his mindset, what he's always had. And then after like his book came out that I read and listened to, and actually went to a book event that he did in New York. He was promoting it, and got to see him on stage with oh my god, I was gonna say Stan Lee. Uh, with my god, oh wow, how am I blanking on the name? Uh, you know, um, Do the Right Thing. God damn it! How come I cannot think about his name?
Do the right thing.
Yeah, the director.
Let me look it up. Sorry.
That's anyway. Is wow. I don't know why I have Stanley in my head. um,
Oh, Spike Lee.
Spike Lee. See, I see it's something Lee. Oh my god, I couldn't think about the.
I'm mad I didn't think about that. Yeah, Spike Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there was incredible conversation, but he talks about like the something he learned from his dad, which is like the analogy of like brick by brick. Like you just put a, you don't know how to, like, you can't think about the wall, you just think about the brick. And so that, there's a lot in that movie that I value so much, and I do my best to embody in my own life, and I believe in deeply. So yeah, I think that's why that's part of my pick.
For sure, for sure. And I think also, if we've been talking about networking a lot during this whole thing, that is one of the most important things in this movie that literally helps him at the end of the movie because he did something nice for one of the people and it literally helped him at the end of the movie, which just shows you just treat people the way you want to be treated. That's the
Yeah.
easiest way. That's always going to be the
But
easiest
but
route.
yeah, and it's exactly, it's that, and it's also like that internal belief when things are not, your world is not yet manifested the way you want, but you have that belief, but you also take massive action. It's a
Mhm.
combination of both. I mean, I'm a big believer in manifestation and law of attraction and all these things like meditation, but it's also like we got to put in so much time and so much work. We have to be obsessive about the thing that we want, without hurting others, and being a good person, kind person. So yeah, it's just a combination of so many things. Actually, like you're bringing a lot of the scenes back to my memory that maybe you have to watch that again. But yeah, it's pretty incredible.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I haven't watched that movie in a while, but just I remember a lot about that movie because that movie when it came out was one of my mom's favorite movies. So I remember just hearing the movie start on and like, oh, there she go in the living room playing it again. It's one of my mom's favorite movies. She also is a huge Tyler Perry fan too, but
Nice, nice. And then he did, like, I mean, obviously he was amazing in King Richard, but
yeah,
and he won the Oscar for that. But I mean, I I,
it
I
was an interesting night, man.
it was an interesting night. But I think like he was way more deserving in Pursuit of Happiness. And then he did a movie the following year, but of course with all that happened, kind of like, you know. But I thought that performance was the one worthy of, more worthy even of
Of that.
a nomination, which was the Apple movie. What's the name? He plays a slave from
Oh, I remember.
ah,
I gotta look it up real quick.
yeah. For our listeners. Oh my God, we're blanking on everything, but yeah, but that movie is phenomenal. The movie is great. It's so good. The performances are stellar. Um, but yeah, I was like, if he wasn't banned, I think he would have been nominated again. But um,
Emancipation.
Emancipation,
Yep,
yes,
yep.
yes. It is an incredible accent. I mean, I forget where the character's from, but maybe Africa or something. But yeah.
Yeah, I felt like right after he had did that and he had that movie out, and I was like, man, yeah, that's probably gonna mess up. You're not even gonna get the thought about because it's like,
Yeah. That
but
was
see,
the fir- that was the movie that was promoting just a few months after, so it's pretty hard.
and it was
So
like, and then he still really hasn't really gotten out of that shade. I think they finally kind of inviting him back to this one, which I don't know how I personally feel about it. Because me personally, I'm always been on the side of the comedians because I've always felt more on the comedian side type of thing. And I always felt like he kind of low key invited danger to people who did that type of field. But I'm just going to leave that where it may. I've always been a
sure.
Will Smith fan. I like some of the movies he's been in. And I hate to be one of those people to say I can't take the art away from the person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But my next
100%.
question I want to ask you, and then after that, we'll be down to our last question. But my next question I want to ask you, do you have any advice for anybody that wants to get into acting? Like, what's your best route for them to go into getting, like, what's your best advice for someone to get into acting?
I mean, I think number one is to go study. If you really haven't, I think the advice, yeah, because I get asked that a lot, and here because we have a little more time. But I think like if we're talking to an audience who like really just have that desire, have never done it, we have to start, right? We have to start doing the thing.
True.
Is how we learn. So the easiest way I find is to go to an acting class, not only to learn tools, but so you can go and do the thing. Now, you can start by, especially now these days with social media, start creating your own things. You get some friends, But that's number one. Now, for those who have been doing it, uh, I mean, because I've collected so many advices through my career and journey that I love so much, and either like to repeat. But things that I think the number one um, that I mentioned previously, I think the mindset, having the mindset that this is going to take a long time, is going to be a long journey. Um, I think that helps, going in with very little expectations. I also believe just in life to do our best to have zero to at least little expectation about things, and do it for the joy of it, for because you really want it, and with that curiosity. Um, so yeah, I would really impart that to your listeners here, that if you're doing it, keep doing it. And I know it can be frustrating and hard, but if you really want it, if it's a passion of yours, if you have decided, you have to decide, and then we have to stick to that decision that we made, that commitment, and really put the blinders on, and just keep doing it, do your best. And if you have been in a certain path, and I always also love that the saying of Einstein, right? You can't do the same thing and expect different results. So we also have to always be finding ways
That is
to,
so true.
right, to keep growing. To see if you're in a certain class for too long, then maybe you need to find something else. Or if you're doing certain things, then you have to maybe try different things. So, which I'm constantly doing myself, with my self tapes, with my classes or no classes, or this or that. So it's a never ending process.
It's
I
for
hope
sure.
that helps. It's not very like I'm always like rambling, but it's just there's so many, and it's so specific. And also, I'll say this just because that we've been having this wonderful conversation, but I personally, like, I love this a concept I heard. I forget who said it. It was in New York. I was in New York at the time. I was at a Q&A conversation thing from a SAG uh, event, and the actor was saying, like, yeah, I don't believe in advice. I don't like giving advice. And it hit me so deeply because what he was meaning is that, like, everything we usually say comes from such a, it's obviously a personal, um and not it's very subjective to our own narrow experience. So when somebody says, oh, you should do this or do that, or don't do this, in that kind of way, it's like it's either coming from fear or coming from that person's experience, and that yours could be completely different. So I'm always very careful. But in this case, it's obviously the broader thing that I believe in so much, and regardless of the specificity, I think it's something that everybody, um, will benefit from. And I think the greatest have had that s- type of mentality, like just the long term, the passion, keep doing consistently, and there you go.
For sure. But one thing I've learned by just doing these voice actor interviews is everybody's route to get into this has been different. They
Mm,
literally they come about it in different
yeah,
situations, different
there you
way of
go.
life. They found it in different points of times in their careers and
See?
their and it's like there's no one way to tell somebody
No,
how to get into this field. And one thing I think everybody always say is just study acting. Learn what
there you go.
acting is. Try to figure out what acting
Yes,
is and then basically go from there. So basically attend classes. If this is something you want to learn and get into, know what you're getting into basically. So I think that's always good. It's going to be the best advice.
you're right. You're right. And it's like, and people, and there are the exceptions, because in any field, in anything, there are the exceptions to the rule. But I'm like, I also learned this, or I believe in it, since I listened to it in my 20s, is like, don't use the exceptions as the rule or as the metric. I mean, believe that you're going to be the exception. That's fine. But yeah, it's such a fine, because there's so many actors that have never studied.
Hmm.
Yes, there are, but they are the exception. Um, and and
Um,
then time will tell, and the market will tell too. Maybe you don't have to go try to do the thing. And if it works out, it works out. But definitely, like what you said there, of like different paths. That's also something. There was a point in time a few years ago, especially during the pandemic, where we weren't doing much, and I had been really into audiobooks, since like 2017, 2018. I listened to so many, and then podcasts started to come about, at least for me. And I remember I had listened to one point every single episode of Alicia Oxy's That One Audition, and she's the one I mentioned earlier who said rejection, not rejection, it's selection. And she has incredible sayings, and her podcast is amazing for actors because she only interviews. She's an incredible actress herself, has had a long, long career, but she interviews people who have had at least 10 plus years in the business, some big celebrities, but mostly like really good working actors have been series regulars and, been in a bunch of stuff. And so I listened to all their stories, like so many, like for almost a year, over a year. And it's exactly that. Like, it's just so radically different. There are certain things that, after listening to so many, like, oh, wow, look at this common denominator, but it's not an absolute. Um, so that's very interesting. So we got to do it our own way. But the
For
one
sure.
thing is like, I think the one common denominator is people have decided they loved it or they wanted it badly enough and they just decided I'm going to do this. And then you go do it. However it is that you think is the best way for you.
For sure. And just to kind of piggyback off your comment when you're talking about, the exceptions to the rules and stuff like that, I always believed that, hard work beats talent when, talent doesn't work hard. You know what I mean? So I
Sure.
always felt like
Yeah.
as long as you're always in there trying to get as much education and doing it, you're going to eventually get there. But moving on to my last question I want to ask you is looking ahead, is there any specific type of roles or genres you are eager to explore? And what's one personal or professional goal you're working towards?
Sure. Well, there's one type of role that now, like, since this coming out and doing all these interviews, I was like, oh, I had never thought of like uh doing it, as a voice actor, but now I'm really open to it. I think it would fulfill me as well. But still, like, I would be able to. I would love to do it in a live action situation. Was to play a knight. I love medieval
Okay.
stuff, and yeah, I grew up loving just like something with not necessarily. I think primarily a knight, but I also think about Zorro, something with swords or something with horses. Like, just I love that, and so that's something that's like a big dream of mine. Uh, and as far as a goal, look, my main one of my big my well, also it's a big dream, is a big goal, and I don't know if it's for this year, but then I'll keep saying it because I want to manifest, which is to direct and act in my first feature film. Because all my short films I have directed and acted, and so I want to be able to do that in a feature film. Um, I was saying last year that I wanted to become the first Brazilian, uh, kind of like here in Hollywood or the U.S. to Brazilian to write and direct, like Bradley Cooper and all the greats have been doing, even like Jesse Eisenberg. There's so many these days, right? But I'm like, I can't say that anymore because our great Wagner Moura, who is a phenomenal Brazilian actor who have been killing it and rocking Hollywood for a while now, and especially last year, he's been in some, Civil War. So I think is his first like lead role in a feature film. But he's the actor of Narco, the Netflix Narco series. He's just extremely talented and amazing, and he has directed and acted before, I think, but I think he's actually doing a new, I don't know if it's studio, but I think he's acting and directing in something Hollywood esque. So, but it doesn't matter. But that's something that I really strive for, and I hope I get there sooner than later. And another big goal is just to be part of something new this year. I was very fortunate last year. I started the year after I shot my short film. I got a role on CBS Elsbeth playing a professional tennis player. So that was a big full circle moment for me. And the X-Men came out, and I did the whole like Comic-Con thing, but I didn't get into any other show or any other movie per se. And so I hope this year gives me that opportunity to, portray something new and be part of a new show and a movie. I really want to be part of a feature film.
For sure, for sure. I hope that manifests for you. I got fingers crossed over here.
Thank you.
Especially if you get in the movie. I hope you don't forget about me, man. I would love to have a credit.
Of course, of course.
Well, but before we wrap up, I just want to know, do you have a question for me or for another
No,
voice
not
actor that may come on the show?
not necessarily, but Raysean, it was a pleasure meeting you. I know this has been a long time coming, and so I appreciate wanting me to be part of this. And thanks for your patience. And it's been lovely to chat with you. And yeah, thanks for being so receptive. All the questions, and I hope your listeners, viewers enjoy. And I appreciate the support.
For sure. And I'm glad that you came on. With that, we're going to basically wrap up. That will be the end of the show. I want to thank my guests for coming on and chatting it up with me. I had a lot of fun and learned so much more about the industry of voice acting, and hopefully you listeners did too. But before we close out, I just want to allow my guests the opportunity to plug themselves, basically tell everybody where they can find you. So basically just tell us your social media.
Yeah, so you can find me at Gui Agustini1, mostly Instagram, but that's my Twitter X as well.
Okay. Do you got a Blue Sky? I know a lot of people are moving to Blue Sky.
Oh, wow. I haven't even heard of Blue Sky. Is that a new? Wow.
Oh, you haven't heard it? Okay. I wonder if that
No.
was when you were in out of town, out of the country, where they were doing that. But I've seen a lot of voice actors moving over there, so I didn't know if that was just.
Oh my God! After the TikTok is getting banned or whatever, is that going to go away? And now we're going to have a new one. Oh my
It's
God.
so crazy, man. It's hard to keep up with what's going on with the world.
Yes.
But with that, I just want to say, peace.
Peace.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.